Hello Channel viewers, I am DS, your psychologist, and welcome to another episode on Channel NITT. So one of our viewers, Yong Hui, commented in one of our previous episodes and he asked these two questions. Okay, I need to refer. Okay, so Yong Hui asked two questions. Will an ENTJ go the extra mile to help a friend physically and emotionally? The second question is, has DS thought about who will take care of you when you are old? So because these two questions are not directly related, I will have to answer each of them in separate episodes. So in this episode, I am going to answer the second question first. Why the second question? This is because the ENTJ seldom follows sequence. So it seems as if the second question is more appealing, easier to answer, so I want to answer the second question first. So it might seem a bit strange to a lot of people, but the ENTJ may not follow the conventional way of doing things. So take for example, when I am reading a magazine, I read the magazine backwards. So I'm not too sure whether for fellow ENTJs, right, you also do the same thing. Because I just pick up a magazine, I will usually just read it backwards. And unless I'm in a cinema and forced to watch the movie forward, if I am watching YouTube, a video or movie, I can also watch it very jumpily, like forward, backward, then go in front and backwards. And from there, I try to conceptualize and make sense of the whole movie. So when I'm watching a movie at home, I tend to go along the timeline and look at the images. And from there, I will decide which scenes I want to watch. It's very much like a man watching a porn, just straight away scrolling and then going to the direct climax. So basically, I'm not too sure whether this is a man trait because the man may be impatient or it's an ENTJ trait. So fellow ENTJs, why don't you help me along with this and comment? So back to Yong Hui's question, have I thought about who will take care of me when I am old? Yes, the answer is myself. And I think I represent the ENTJ well in this question. We are very independent people and we do not expect anybody to take care of us except ourselves. So an ENTJ is very likely to be very hardworking. They might think of ways to make money when they are young so that they can be financially independent when they become older and feed themselves. I'm not too sure whether there is a trigger that may have caused the ENTJ to think this way. In some of my previous episodes, I've mentioned that I come from a gambling family. So my parents are habitual gamblers. So every dime they have, they might just spend it. Of course, the disclaimer, they did not abuse me, so they would still pay for my fees, they would still feed me. It's just that they are very addicted to gambling most of the time. Since I was very young, I knew that I have to depend on myself financially. So I decided when I was in secondary school that I am going to study very hard, get myself a good degree and get myself a good job. So an ENTJ may become very extreme with this kind of a mentality. I was so motivated back when I was in my schooling days that I really pushed myself very hard. So I want to use this episode to describe the extent to which I push myself. So I think that this episode is a good time because had I disclosed all the information earlier and people do not know me well enough, they may be thinking that I am blowing my trumpet, I am boasting, or I am just showing off. But the fact is that ENTJ can be very hardworking if he or she is motivated. So let's talk about how extreme this ENTJ can be.
Check it out, Extreme Center!
So back in my schooling days, I already knew very clearly that I have to work very hard for myself. So in Singapore, about 20 to 30 years ago, education is very important. It is also a good indicator of whether you will be successful in the future. So that's what the society feels and thinks. So closer to the main examinations, especially during the A-level examinations, I think I was very extreme. How extreme? I'll just tell you. I spent almost every second studying. So as I take the bus home, the moment I step out of the bus, I would run home. Because I reckon that if I run home, I will save about 10 minutes. And 10 minutes is very important because in this 10 minutes, I can read 3 pages of my textbook. So during the last 2 months before the final examinations, I have already drawn out a very clear timetable that I must follow. So it's very strict, like from 10 AM to 11:30 AM, I must do math, for example, and I will follow. So every day I will have all the different subjects that I'm supposed to take for the A-levels, and I will revise them very dutifully. So while the ENTJ is not really able to follow routines under normal circumstances, but if he is motivated enough to do so, he can. So what's so interesting about the timetable? There are no breaks. Even if I had put a break in between, I will not use it. I will use it to study anyway. It's so extreme that while I am eating, I am studying. So I am always reading something at all times. So given that I am an extrovert, I cannot just sit down and study. I walk around in my house. So I will take a script, take a book, take the notes, and then I will walk from one end of the house to the other end, through and fro and through and fro. Interestingly, I realized that I am not alone. There are other people who study this way, by walking and carrying their notes around with them. So I think that in a single day, I would easily have walked 5 kilometers. And even while I'm in the toilet, even in the showers, I am also studying. How to study in the showers? Easy, just put the notes in a Ziploc bag and then it will make the notes waterproof. So you can just bathe and study at the same time. Very extreme, right? No single second is wasted. I think the desire to want to do so well is really propelling me forward. It has become compulsive. So looking back, yes, it might have been a disorder of sorts. It sounds like a disorder now. And this is not all. So I live quite a distance away from my junior college. So it takes about 1 hour to travel to school, and I want to be in school early. So I may have to wake up at 5:45. So my parents would ask me to sleep by 11. But I still want to study. So I cannot switch on the lights. I would take the notes and go to the window and borrow the moonlight in order to read. So this is really extreme, but this has really happened. And I reckon that in order for me to save some time the next day, so that I don't waste time changing my uniform, I wear my uniform to sleep. And for this kind of life, I have lived for at least 5 months consecutively. So this is the first time I had an extreme kind of a lifestyle. And this was not all. When I was enlisted into the army, I was actually placed in the scholars platoon, and I was placed alongside a lot of people who also could be potential scholars. So in comparison with my platoon mates, I think I am really insignificant because my platoon mates have got a lot of stellar qualities besides being good in their studies. So they could be the chairperson of a particular club, debating society for example, they could be a student councillor. So in comparison, I really spend too much time in studies. My record for co-curricular activities is really weak. So when the time comes to get a scholarship, I was not selected at all. So I started to realize how important it is to have co-curricular activities. So when I went to university, another extreme thing happened. I went into the matriculation fair and dropped my name in almost every society. I want to join as many as possible. In the end, I joined 15 different co-curricular activities.
You're a sicko, bro.
And the interesting thing is, I was quite scheming in the sense that I was planning to be an all-rounder. So I joined in such a way that I have committees, I have sports, I have culture, and I also do community service. So the ENTJ is not only blindly doing things, but doing things in a very calculated way. Very much like an INTJ would. So of course, everything paid off in the end, but I am just saying that as an ENTJ, we can be very extreme, and we really want to be very self-sufficient and independent. So to answer Yong Hui's question, I do not think that there is a need to depend on anyone. If I have a companion, if I have a child, I would also not expect this person to follow with me to the end of my last breath. So the only person that I can trust is myself. So therefore, we do not need anybody to look after us, we can look after ourselves. We can be lonely, but that's an issue that we have to deal with. So I'm really very curious to know whether other fellow ENTJs, you also have this kind of extreme moments in your life, because I think that these extreme moments are very important indicators that an ENTJ will definitely be able to survive on their own because they are determined and motivated to do so. Okay, at Channel NITT, we produce a lot of MBTI related videos. If you are new to our channel, do consider subscribing so that we can bring you more ENTJ and MBTI. And if you have enjoyed this video, do remember to like. Okay, I'm going to sign off now and I'll see you in our next episode. Bye bye!